Hello and welcome to another video training on the EyeSell app. Today I'm really excited about our topic. We have XperioUV and we're really lucky to have a distinguished technical trainer here with us today, Bill Markham. And we're going to be talking about Xperio lenses and diving deep into a few topics. So we have three key items we're going to be covering today. One is outdoor types of lenses. The second one is XperioUV and diving deep into what makes it different. And then the third is going to be general queries, just because there's some confusion out there about XperioUV and we want to clear some of those up.
So I'm so excited to be here today to talk about XperioUV lenses. But before we get to XperioUV, let's talk about tinted lenses versus polarized lenses. First, with tinted lenses, you've got a liquid dye with the pigments in the dye. You heat this dye near boiling temperature, dip the lenses in the dye, and the pigments of the tint are absorbed into the lens. Switching to polarized is a case of where you have a layer of polarized film embedded in the lens. So for example, with a polycarbonate lens, you're going to have a thin layer of polycarbonate. Then behind that thin layer of polycarbonate, you'll have the polarized film. Then you're going to have mass thickness of polycarbonate for when you're grinding the lens, then the power is going to be in the back side.
Bill, I've noticed some people, their sunglass lenses look maybe uneven in color or kind of purpley or faded. What's going on with those people's lenses?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because, that's a tinted lens. Where with polarized, the color is fast and lasting. With the tinted lens, either from exposure to the sun that can change the pigments in the lens or from actual cleaning of the lens. You clean the lens a bunch of times over a year and it really causes the lens to fade.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
We've put this simple chart together to show you the difference between ordinary tints and a polarized lens. So first let's talk about ordinary tints because there's not much there to offer. You're going to get brightness reduction, and we're going to give it half credit for UV protection because you're getting no UV protection from the backside. Now let's move to polarized. You've got the brightness reduction. Again, you've got half UV protection, and we'll talk about that further when we get into XperioUV. But with polarized, you've got no glare from the polarized film. You've got clarity of vision, true color perception, and as we talked about before, it will not fade over time.
Bill, I've had a number of ECPs ask me why polarized lenses aren't very dark. Why is that?
That's a great question, and you can understand that they think they need to have it dark because the tinted lens needs to be dark to knock down on that brightness. But if you make a polarized lens as dark as a tinted lens, you're actually going to be negative and you're going to lose clarity of vision and true color perception.
That makes me understand a lot, so I thank you for that.
So let's look at XperioUV from the front side. And so what we've got is a polarized film embedded in the lens. And then we've got this XperioUV special scratch resistant hard coat. And this hard coat has 50% silica particles. And you might say, what silica particles? Well, it's glass. So 50% of what's in the hard coat is glass. And so you'd like to have a complete film of glass on the lens, but that's not practical because of the different lens materials. They could expand and contract and your glass would break. So next best thing is a polymerized matrix where it's 50% glass particles to give you that scratch resistance. So you got scratch resistance, and then you've got HSD. And you might say, what's HSD? Well, HSD is that super easy to clean that you're going to have both on the front side and back side. But we're talking about the front side that's there. No other polarized lens has this offering. Now, this product is so slippery that to edge it, you have to put a pad control layer on. That's a temporary layer that's put in the vacuum coating chamber that wipes off with a dry cloth.
Hey, Bill, I heard about this Post-it note test or something. What is that?
Well, what it is you can simply take a Post-it note And say you've got a lens laying on the table and it's XperioUV and you've got a lens from any competitor, take any competitor. You're going to put that Post-it note on the XperioUV and that Post-it note is not going to stick. There's no way you're going to even budge that lens from coming off the table. You put that Post-it note on any other competitor's lens and it's going to pick it right up. So, I mean, that's what the Post-it note is, and that's a good way to demonstrate cleanability. And again, we're talking about front side, but you can do that front or back side of the lens and you're going to have the same performance front or back.
Very cool. Glad you explained that to me.
So we've talked about the front side, but now let's get to the back side of XperioUV. And we're going to start at the bottom of the stack, and the first thing we're going to do is apply a hard coat scratch resistant layer on the surface of the lens. Next thing we're going to do is come with a scratch resistant booster layer, and that's actually applied in the vacuum coating chamber, and that's a thick layer of glass SiO2 material. On top of that, we'll put the anti-reflective coating layers, and within those anti-reflective coating layers, we're going to optimize UV protection and also have the anti-particulate layer. Last thing on the lens is the high surface density to give you that super cleanability on the back side. We put the pad control layer, which is a temporary layer that wipes off once you edge the lens before you mount it into the frame.
Phil, a light bulb just went off in my head. You talked about having the extra scratch resistant layer on the back side of the lens. And when you think about it, when you're cleaning your lenses, the back side you're cleaning with your thumb and there's extra pressure. And I know most scratches end up on the back side of the lens from cleaning. So adding that extra layer makes complete sense to me.
Exactly. So I wanted to get to the XperioUV protection on both front and back, and let's talk about transmission. So from the front side of the lens, XperioUV or polarized, we're going to reduce visible light reflection, and we're also going to reduce the UV light reflection. And that's where we get a lot of even what I'm going to call dime store sunglasses that have a tag on it that says 100% UV protection. Well, they're talking about UV protection of UV going through the lens. And really that's misleading, and FDA is really looking at this because it doesn't take in consideration UV that's being reflected off the backside of the lens. So if you look at the next picture down, the second picture down, it's a case of where you're looking at what happens to the backside. And you think about the backside, if it doesn't have an AR on it, you can actually get reflection of visible light and UV. With our optimized stack, you're cutting down both that visible and UV stack to where it's just almost nothing. And in fact, again, we're going to be honest with you and tell you that with our XperioUV, you get 2% UV exposure or 98% protection. And with some of those sunglasses that are in the, those cheapy sunglasses, you can actually get as much as 50% UV exposure, even though the tag on there says 100% UV protection.
Yeah, that really helps clarify, that strong need to have the backside protection. Because, you look at the image, where is the sun? It's overhead. It's not coming straight at your eyes. So.
And there can be cases of where the sun's behind you. And so, and again, I talked about Pacific University. They've taken a mannequin's head, drilled a hole in the head, put a probe in where the pupil's at, and they've measured the amount of UV, and they've measured as high as 50% UV reflection.
Wow.
Nothing to do with Essilor, Pacific University, that's done its own research.
Very interesting.
And the eye sun protection is just what we've registered as far as a kind of a nomenclature for the ESPF 50. And again, we've spent a lot of time talking about that, but you are offering the best UV protection of anything that's on the market. There's nobody else out there that can make this claim because of what we're doing on the back side to reduce the UV reflection. And we're very confident in that. It's maximum 2%. In fact, every pair that we've looked at is less than 2%, and you're giving maximum UV protection.
What I like about the ESPF is that we've all been hammered by the not suntan lotion, but sunblock commercials and how UV is bad for us. But my wife won't let me walk out, to go to the pool without SPF 50, sunblock on. So.
And it's the same thing. And again, I'll tell you, we did a roundtable in Salt Lake City, and we had the president of Dermatology Association that was there. And she was part of the Speakers Bureau roundtable. And halfway through, she raised her hand and said, I never thought about the eye. We know that 80 to 90% of skin cancer is on the head and around the eye, but we never thought about the actual eye. And she talked about going back to her association and having our people, if somebody had skin cancer, actually referring them to an ECP to have a look at the eye.
Wow.
So stair step, and I really like this because it makes it clear as to what each product offers. Tinted lens, you can see what you get. You get reduction of light, and you get UV protection from front side. But then as you go to Essilor polarized, you can see what that's going to offer. And then it really stacks XperioUV up against polarized, and you can see the differentiation. So for me, this is about the differentiation. So there is some confusion in the marketplace, and in the year 2011-2012, we launched a product called Experio, and it didn't have all the properties that XperioUV has, and we realized that we really needed to come with a better product that was differentiating us from other polarized lenses on the market. So that's when we launched XperioUV. And again, you may have some people trying to order just Experio. That product is not available in the US. The only product you can get is XperioUV. Okay, so let's summarize. In summary, the XperioUV is going to eliminate glare. And I want to skip over to the middle, and it's going to offer clarity. But the things that make it much superior is maximum UV protection. There's no one in the marketplace that's going to offer the UV protection of XperioUV. It offers best-in-class scratch resistance and best-in-class easy to clean.
Bill, that was great. I really have a much better understanding of XperioUV, and I'm sure everyone that watches this training video will agree with me that now they have a better understanding. So thank you. Also, for those of you that are participating in the activity, put in the code ESPF50 to earn your credit. And once again, thank you to Bill for doing such a great job.
Thank you for having me. I love to talk about XperioUV.